things that you want to know. But after a period of time, you sort of ask yourself, is this it? I already know those katas. Is this all there is? That's why some people go off and they do judo or they do another type of martial arts. They get to a certain point in their karate career and they deviate, they go somewhere else. You've most probably done it yourselves, which is great. You most probably go to other clubs. Brilliant. I always say to my students, if you can go off and train somewhere else and get their experiences, why not? And the same should thing happen with any martial artist. But at some point, you have to reflect. And the only way to go forward is to go back. And I genuinely believe that you see some, especially 6 dans and above, you know, they wear a white and a red belt. I've never really been into that. Yeah, and then you have people, senseis like Sensei Schmitz. He wears a white belt. And I think it's that acknowledgement that you ask yourself and you think, I'm not really, that's what Schmidt says. He says, I'm not good enough to wear a black belt. Well, why are we wearing black belts then, if you're not good enough? So you have to go back and you have to reflect on what you're doing. So it's almost this going back and relearning again. And viewing things from a different perspective. You've all got lots of experience. But what you should do is you should take that experience and go back to the beginning and start again. That's what this wearing a white belt or a red and white belt is. Yeah? So I hope you don't mind, but that's what we're going to do today. And with our wealth of experience, we're going to use that wealth of experience and realise what we're doing or what we're lacking. Yeah, we'll crack on. Right, so please bear with me today. You'll feel like, oh, I'm in a beginner's class again. Karate is so good because it tells you the answers. Whenever you learn, somebody's always telling you the answers. That's why some people struggle when they get to a certain grade, because they've always had somebody telling them. Yeah, Sensei and Graham, you know, we've been very lucky. We had Takamizo Sensei and we've had Schmidt Sensei. We've had some really good instructors. We've always had a sensei. Always had somebody there to go and ask or somebody teach you. So you need to go back. When you haven't got those instructors around you anymore, you need to go back and realise. And instead of people telling you the answers, you have to realise those things yourself. So that's what we're going to do today. We're going to take one aspect. So this is one of my favourite subjects, Buki. The problem with any Japanese language, it loses its meaning. As soon as you take the kanji or whatever it is away and try and translate it, you lose about 90% of it. You lose a lot of that meaning. So these are my English translations. If you can find another explanation for it, which means a lot more to you, then that's brilliant. Yeah? Uki. So again, you know, Graham Sensei, Takamizo Sensei didn't like use the word block. He used the word not getting hit. Right, block, he tended to think it was, you know, a hard clash, or it's all about not getting hit. Right, so that's a favourite subject for me, because if I don't get hit, that's brilliant. Yeah, but this is just one aspect of going back and rediscovering. Or realising that you're doing certain things, but you didn't realise you was doing those things. Or maybe you're doing something and you think, well, why am I struggling to do that? It's because you haven't broke it down. You haven't broke it down and you don't really understand the building blocks. If you understand the building blocks, then you can take those. It's like Mozart. He had all these, And he could just put, all right, Rich. So it's like having all these notes and then just putting them together to make some lots and lots of different music. Yeah? So you'll have to forgive me today. We're going to go back and we're going to rediscover. Yeah? I'm not going to teach you how to do kata. You can most probably do katas and better than me. All right, so they're going to be quick exercises, and they'll get more and more involved as the time goes on today. Yep. They're very simple, basic techniques. Junzuki stance. Doesn't matter which one. Right? Okay, so we're going to look at Jodanuki, and we're going to look at Gedan Barai. They're just two that are picked out of the air. Okay? So when you're a beginner, you're taught to... So when you step forward, the easiest thing to do is just step back. So step forward and punch Joda. Okay? So Sensei Graham is punching down the center line. Okay? But if I move into a Junzuki stance, I've moved my center line. So when you're teaching a beginner or realizing this yourself, instead of just going straight back and trying to keep your body on the center line, you need to go off the center line. I know it's very trivial, but can you just get a partner and just do that? We don't need to do many. It's that realization of what we're doing today. Yeah? Nothing complex. Might get a bit complex later on. But just build up go back, relearn, have your knowledge. Yeah? So go off the center into Junzuki stance. Yeah? Wish? Thank you, Graham. That was easy enough, wasn't it? I haven't taxed anybody or stressed anybody out. No. So, Graham, can I... So, Junzuki stance. Ready, Wish? If you go straight back and you do Jodanuki, yeah? No. If I go off center, then all I have to do is lift my arm up. I don't have to do any fancy head block. I don't really have to rely on a collision. It's about moving off center line and just lifting your arm. So really, there should be no contact, apart from maybe a little bit of brushing. Because your hand's coming from the center, and it comes naturally. So there shouldn't be any collision, it's just lifting your arm up. Do you understand that? Don't want to see any just lifting. And lift your arm straight up. Can you, thank you, Graham. Can you try that? Just literally lift your arm up. So because you have not used your weapons up, all you've done is raised your hand, you can then attack with it. So I'm going off center, lifting, and it can come straight back in. There's no stop, start. It is just one move. Your Jodanuki, thank you, Graham. Your Jodanuki was a passing place. It was an intermediate. It is I'm just covering. It's not a stop and then start again. It is off center and forward. Can you quickly try that? We're not going to spend long on them. All of a sudden you're reverting back. Your muscle memory, your years of training, all of a sudden some people have gone back to what they were doing before. This is not about doing what we did before. This is about trying something new. So make sure, if you've got a line here, okay, make sure that you don't step straight back. You move off center, just enough, and lift. 2, come down. Make sure you go off center. I cannot stress it enough. You need to go off the center. If you keep on going on the center, they're just going to keep on coming forward, forward, forward. You're playing into their hands. You need to go off. Okay, last couple of goes and then we'll crack on. So, we've gone back. We've had a look at Jodanuki. So, what you should have learned from that, this is a very, very basic version, right, of Taisabaki. Body movement, a very, very basic. Yeah, even from, teaching beginners. This is about moving your body out of the way. Moving your body out of the way. Not having to rely on collision, but just lift. Yeah, Sensei Schmidt, we had a lesson with him many, many times. But I remember the once, and I'm sure Graham and Sensei here will remember it. He says, you don't need to know many blocks. You don't need to learn karate. So all you got to do is be a bell ringer. If you're a good bell ringer, that's all you need. Don't need Jodanuki, don't need Sotoruki. You just need to be a bell ringer. So you always try and, what does he mean by that? But when he moved, when he did the ukis, it's beautiful moves. Absolutely gorgeous moves. No stress, no, just his body weight. Dropping or lifting. Yeah, so doing this exercise, it's Taisabaki. Doesn't have to be a complicated Taisabaki. It is just a very rudimentary Taisabaki, a body movement. And if you use a body movement, you don't then have to, Graham, thank you. Osh. Osh, Junzuki. You don't have to rely on strength. You don't have to rely on damaging each other. So, no collision, no bruises, especially at our age. We don't need bruises, do we, Graham? No. Definitely not.
Yeah, enough off of life.
Exactly. So, this time we're going to do a Chudan attack, and we're going to look at Gedan Barai. Yeah, not, so punch Chudan. Not a collision. Not a collision. It doesn't need to be a collision because I'm not there. Yeah, man. Thank you, Graham. Most of you are just standing there nice and relaxed, which is brilliant. So if you're not, put your hands down. Colin. This is Gedan Barai position. If it's relaxed, this is Gedan Barai position. How many times have you heard your instructor, your Gedan Barai is too high? It's too high. This is too much, this is tension. This is Gedan Barai. This is where it should be, because it's relaxed. It's just above your knee. How many times have you heard that off your instructor? Your Gedan Barai is too high. So if you just relax, that's Gedan Barai. I haven't even had to move it to the side. Do you remember on the last course we was talking about Frankenstein and just moving the hip over? Yeah? So the same with this. I've moved my hip over. It's there. I haven't changed the position of it. All I've done is change my body position. So can you go back with your, if you want to, train with maybe somebody else. Yeah, don't train with the same person all the time. It's a bit like being married for 50 years. Yeah? Make sure you're going off center. See where your arm position is. Yeah, lift it, just drop it down. Stand back up, shouldn't have changed position. Yeah, look at your basics in a different way. Use your experience that you've had over the years. Realize what you're doing. Try and work with your body, not against it. Yeah? Okay, carry on. Gedan Barai. Yeah? So what you should have realized is some of you are not doing enough, some of you are doing too much. Going to the side too much. Blocking too much. Yeah, Wado, and I'm sorry for those who don't do, I think the majority of people here do Wado. It's about doing the minimum amount. Anything more than that, there's a Japanese word for it, and Sensei Shimizu used to use it quite a lot, and it's mentioned quite a lot in the Wado Academy. Mudana. It's a wasted move. Everything should be for a purpose. But if you do too much, it's a complete and utter waste. You've gone away from doing Wado. You should keep it to the simplest, minimal part. Yeah? So, that was a basic uke using Taisabaki, the very, very rudimentary Taisabaki. Yeah, there's more advanced ones, especially when you come to do Nagasu. Nagasu. Nagasu is about letting, sorry Graham, can I? Again, this is realizing each individual part of an uke. So fighting stance, yeah, so lunge Jodan. Good. Okay, Nagasu is about allowing the technique to flow through. So I don't want you to use your hands. Thank you, Graham. Thank you, Roger. You go forward and turn. Not this. How many people have you seen doing Nagashizuki? Can't do it now. That's really bad. But you get the gist, don't you? You must be going forward and relax. Okay? So sometimes these get in the way. I want to keep them. I don't. Yeah. But what I want you to do is, sorry, Graham, I'm messing you about. Fighting stance. Is to. Okay? Is to do Nagashizuki and be close, because that's not, you're trying to get rid of Mudana. You don't want to be doing this. That's stepping to the side. You go forward and move your body. Yeah? Can you try that exercise with your partner, please? Thank you, Graham. Come in. I'm noticing a lot of people are using yoi. Use keisoku or heisoku. If you're in yoi, then all of a sudden you've introduced this width. You've introduced this half a gap that's not necessary. So make it a little bit more difficult for yourself, but that's what it's about, realising what you're doing. Is try and make sure you go straight forward and turn. Then you've eliminated all that width. Yeah, you've not introduced stepping to the side. Stepping to the side is not Nagasu. Nagasu, straight forward, straight in. You're letting the technique flow past you. Yeah? Carry on. Because you're starting to progress and you start to realise things. there's a small number of us who get together on a Saturday morning. And I always tell them, this is my lesson, it's not yours. They're just there to annoy me sometimes. So, I always say, it's my lesson. And then we religiously go to the pub afterwards, where we can talk and relax. Yeah, and most of the times they say, you really did our head in this morning, Roger. It's about doing their heads in, yeah? Trying to make them think in a different way. But it's me, it's my lesson, it's things that I am realising. And once you start going through things, you that's similar to this, that's similar to that, I can use that here. Graham?